Beginning transmission 147. Batman, rules of engagement. File under comic book couples.
Come on, you fuckers think that just because a guy reads comics he can't start some shit? I'll fucking take all you want!
Welcome to this week's episode of the Funny Books and Firewater Podcast.
面白い本と歌手ポッドキャストの今週のエピソードへようこそ。
Ignore her. She drinks.
Each week, a motley band of comic readers / amateur bartenders attempt to pair cocktails with comic books.
毎週漫画の読者の雑多なバンドはスラッシュアマチュア入札しようと漫画とペアカクテルバーです。
All while trying to not sound like complete morons in the
すべ
process.
ての中にしようとして音ではないような完了プロセスで低能です。
Kind of like a speakeasy kind of thing. It's kind of cool.
You can find these idiots on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and Tumblr.
Facebook、Twitter、Instagram や Tumblr にこれらのバカを検索できます。
No, what? You read too many comic books.
We now join Brian, Jeremiah, Adam, and Todd.
They're used to curious sights which they attribute to alcoholic delusions. They may be drinkers, Robin, but they're also human beings.
I'm too sober for this shit. Here is a drinking game to play while you listen to this episode. Please drink responsibly, and don't take it too seriously. And if you don't like it, blame William.
Take a drink anytime Mr. Porg decides to interject himself into the conversation. Shut up, Porg.
You need to take a drink anytime Manny Bothhands makes an appearance, and I get groans and fuck yous from Adam and Maya.
Fuck Manny Bothhands!
Manny Bothhands is pure genius.
Take a drink anytime someone refers to me as the cum dumpster.
Take a drink every time the Shame Bell makes an appearance.
Also, take a drink anytime we act like the Member Berries from South Park. Remember when they were on South Park?
I remember.
Yeah, and take a drink every time we do the bad German accent, yeah.
Drink, fucker.
If you have any suggestions for rules you would like to add, email us at funnybooksandfirewater@gmail.com or use the contact link on our website, funnybooksandfirewater.com.
Hey, welcome to episode 147 of the Funny Books and Firewater podcast. This week we are starting our month of comic book couples with the engagement of Batman and Catwoman with Batman Volume 5, The Rules of Engagement by Tom King, and art by Joëlle Jones, who also did Lady Killer, which we loved on the show as well. And she's currently writing and sometimes illustrating Catwoman. This sprung off of some of all this stuff.
I was going to say, I think Clay Mann also did the art as well.
And Lee Weeks and Michael Lark and Seth Mann.
Yeah, yeah the last three all did the art in the annual that was at the end of it.
Anyway, that being said, you've already heard his sultry voice. We have with us Mr. Maya.
Hey, I'm Maya. Follow me on Twitter at Mr. Maya or Instagram at the Mr. Maya. Or, even better, don't follow me. Follow my cat instead on both of those platforms at It's the Jonesy.
Following his cat, we have Mr. Jason. Sorry.
Hi, I'm Jason. I am not Adam, but I do have a cat who will, at some point, be making an appearance, presumably on this episode, since it is his namesake.
Come on, Bruce.
And then, of course, we have the Batman enthusiast himself, Mr. Todd.
They say I'm a Batman enthusiast because I got that tattooed on my back.
That, and you printed out that big painting of the Joker just to creep out your wife. You know, things like that.
Yeah, it was pretty awesome.
You have a Batman tramp stamp?
Yes.
It's higher. It's not in the tramp stamp location, so I can call it something different. So, hey, I'm Todd. You can find me here as a co-panelist on this podcast here. And someday soon, you can hear the other podcasts we do with the Cat Wrangler himself and my better half, Amy.
Yeah, we're going to actually record those when I'm in Utah by the end of this week, actually.
Right. Oh, and
cool.
we do have... Wait. I do want to say we are missing one panelist that's normally here, Adam.
Yes.
Because Adam does this show, and sometimes he does another show, Bored as Hell, with Andy Wilson.
Hi, Andy.
Hi, Andy. We had to get that in there.
He also does
Cinema Queens with Chris.
Hi, Chris. At least we're not that.
At least we're not cinema.
At least we're not cinema queens. But no, Adam is being a big important business person today and is not able to join us.
He got a new job.
Good for him. What? People are missing this.
He's got to go do work.
People miss this show. They're not allowed to do that.
The only person who's not allowed to miss the show is me because I do the recording and the editing. So
we could record it ourselves.
Trying to figure out a way that you guys
we could record the show and just send the file to you. And it's like now you have to edit it and listen to it and edit it, and it'll take you 3 times as long.
You can torture me, pick on me. But hey, I'm Brian. I'm a sound designer based out of Southern California. And a grad student at the University of Denver. It's all online. Don't try to figure out the space-time continuum. And
Hi, University of Denver.
Hi, University.
Hi, Denver.
I had to do an introductory paragraph about myself, and I mentioned the podcast. Like, oh, feel free to share the links, and I'm like, I don't know these people well enough yet. I don't know about that.
So eventually, are we going to just greet your professors?
Well, we might, yeah.
That'd be funny.
Deborah is my current professor, so we could say hi, Deborah.
Hi, Deborah.
There you go.
I don't know if she's listening.
She means nothing to me.
I know. To you, she means nothing to you?
She means nothing to me. She means a lot to you, but not to me.
Yes, maybe I won't say anything about the podcast until after final grades.
That might be smart.
Or maybe they would be fans, and maybe I would get a better grade. I don't know.
Yeah.
So, anyway.
Book intro.
So this week, basically this book is all about the engagement between Batman and Catwoman. The first section of it has to deal with Batman's ex, Talia al Ghul, meeting and approving of his new girlfriend and fiancée, Catwoman. And then we have a fun little part of the reason I picked this book in specific is we have a fun couple of episodes of Batman and Superman / Clark Kent trying to figure out the arrangements of being the best man and introducing him to Catwoman or whatever, and then you end up with an annual at the end. This sort of deals with a few things as well, but we will get into those.
Myification.
Mr. Todd, what is the myification of this book?
Meow.
I love it.
There you go.
That's what you're going with?
Yeah.
That's all you got? Okay. Awesome.
Drinking game.
Well, cool. Then let us jump into drinking games for this book. Mine I'm going to start out with because I stole Maya's. Sucker. That's what happens when you post your announcements in the middle of the night when you're awake and say, hey, this is what I'm claiming. So mine is called Pet Names, which is whenever they refer to each other as bat or cat, take a drink. That is an actually pretty evil rule.
That one is rough.
Say that right off the rip. That one's very rough. Mr. Maya, what is your drinking game rule?
Mine is newsflash. Basically, anytime a new character hears the news that Batman and Catwoman are engaged, take a drink.
Mr. Jason, what is your drinking game rule?
Mine is the Batman who chuckles. So drink whenever this makes you genuinely smile or chuckle because it's overall a very heartwarming Batman story.
And Mr. Toad.
Well, Maya took mine. Okay,
So I took Maya, and then Maya
yeah, because mine was titled, what, are you sure about that? And it's every time you find out Batman is engaged to Catwoman. So,
for some reason, you just made me think of Arrested Development and her?
Her? Really? So, well, okay. Batman happy? Is that allowed? Every time people realize Batman could be getting married because he wants to take a drink, and people's like, what? Because it's every bit as much as Catwoman versus he's what? I didn't know he would do that.
Validity votes.
Let us go into votes as to whether or not we believe that it is worth you, our dear listeners, hard-earned time, money, and effort. What is your vote, Mr. Todd?
Well, with the guy that has the Bat logo tattooed on my back. Yeah.
As someone who has a Batman tattoo on their shoulder, I also say yes. Mr. Jason, as a man who has a cat named after Bruce Wayne, what is your vote?
I say yes, shockingly.
Okay. And the only person who doesn't have a race or a pony in this race, Mr. Maya, what is your vote?
I vote yes.
Look at that.
Maya, when I'm in town this weekend, we should get you your Batman tattoo.
We'll see.
We'll see? That's closer to commitment than I've
That's
ever
pretty
had,
close.
Out of you. Normally you're just like, yeah, we're getting there. I'm wearing you down.
Playlist.
So let us go into playlists. So these are some songs that we are putting together for you to help increase your overall experience in reading the book. Mr. Maya, what is your song for the playlist?
Mine is Crazy Little Thing Called Love by Queen.
Awesome. Mr. We'll go with Todd.
The Cardigans. Love me, love me. Say that you love me.
Isn't that called Love Fool?
Yeah, but that was what I remembered. But Love Fool by the Cardigans.
I'm a little depressed because I know that off the top of my head, to be honest with you.
You should be.
Mr. Jason, what is your playlist song?
Mine is called The Ballad of Love and Hate by the Avett Brothers.
And mine is called Anything, Anything by Dramarama. You may not recognize it by the title, but you may recognize it by the song. It's the I'll give you diamonds, give you pills, give you anything you want, $100 bills song from the, I think it's early 90s, late 80s. Wait, what was it? The ballad. So I've... either my computer knows that I'm on a diet or what, but I was writing in the Ballad of Love for Jason, and it wrote the Salad of Love, which is a totally different thing in general.
Don't toss it.
That's a very different. That's a very different drinking rule too.
Oh yeah, it is. Oh yeah.
Final warnings.
So, does anybody else have any final warnings before we go into our little intermission?
No, it's really straightforward. All you have to know going in is Batman and Catwoman are engaged to be married, and you're good to go.
Yep. The thing that happened immediately before this is he popped the question, and she said yes.
Well, technically he didn't pop the question. He said marry me.
He told her.
Well, so
yeah, marry me. And she's like, oh, all right.
Exactly. Yes.
So this is actually a book 5, by the way, but you don't really necessarily need to know everything else up until that point in time, as long as you understand that Batman and Catwoman are getting married, and that will pretty much give you everything you need for this.
Mm-hmm.
So,
yeah.
With that being said, we will take a little bit of a break so that you can go and read it for yourself, which we all recommend that you should, and then we will see you on the flip side.
Flippy.
If you have yet to read this week's book and would like to read it now, press pause. Go ahead. We'll wait.
Hey, I'm Bryn.
Hi, this is Charity. And this is the place where we talk to each other about true crime happenings from all around our home state of Utah.
I do the research, she drinks wine and clutches her pearls. Listen along as we tell the fascinating tales of real-life people who turned our communities upside down.
And tell the stories of the victims, survivors, and families affected in their wake. Because we love a good mystery, we love a good story, and because this is the place where it happened.
This is the place as a proud member of the Hello Sweetie podcast network.
So, I remember an interview with Bob Kane years back, and they were like, where did you come up with the name with Bruce Wayne? And Bob went, it's just an alliteration of my name. I wanted to be that guy. Because you have Bob Kane, Bruce Wayne. He's like, it was just an alliteration on his own name. Yeah, really? He's like, dude, I wanted that to be me. So, yeah.
That's really interesting. I didn't realize
that. Makes sense.
It's a shame he's an...
There is a useless factor.
It's a shame he was an asshole.
Yeah.
Was he?
Oh, Bob Kane?
With the Bill Finger thing?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
So... All right, Brian, here's your homework for tonight, immediately after we're done recording. Immediately.
Okay.
Go on to Hulu and watch, there's a documentary called, it's like Batman and Bill, or...
Yeah, something like that.
Oh, yeah, I have it on my to-be-watched list.
Yeah, you should watch it tonight. You'll see just how big of an asshole Bob Kane was.
Yeah, he pulled similar things as Stan Lee did. Type of a deal.
Oh, okay.
I'd say Stan wasn't as bad, but yeah.
Plot summary.
Correct me. It's been like a little over a week since I've read this, and I've been reading a lot of schoolwork, so please correct me when I go straight on this. I'll try to do my best I can.
Mm-hmm.
Basically, what you start out with is that Batman has taken Catwoman to the desert to find Talia al Ghul, basically sort of as a, hey, this is my ex and my baby mama, and you're going to have to sort of... prove yourself to her that you are worthy of marrying me, being married to me or whatever, which I think is kind of a little bizarre, but that's okay. So they get into a fight and they discuss it.
I was going to say real quick, that seemed to have just kind of happened along the way, because aren't they going to find
Holly Robinson.
Catwoman's friend Holly?
Yeah.
Oh, is that what it is?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's the real reason.
Oh,
yeah,
right.
because she killed a whole bunch of people, and Catwoman took the fall for it, but Catwoman wants to live without, having the crime over, held over her. She wants to be able to live freely, so they're going to get her. It just happens to be that she's hanging out with Talia.
I gotcha. Okay, see that. This is why these answer these questions. So ends up with Catwoman putting a sword in the back of Talia because Talia put a sword in the back of Catwoman. Of Batman, sorry. And so and then they end up going home. So that's about that sequence. Anything I'm missing on that?
Talia approves.
Yeah.
Talia approves. Okay.
Yeah.
So then we have the next section is about Superman and Superman trying to ask Batman, to be his best man to a certain extent. They're sort of avoiding each other and having sort of this awkward, and basically both the women in their lives, Lois Lane for Superman and Catwoman for Batman, keep saying, just talk to the guy, just talk to the guy, just talk to the guy. And so eventually they end up meeting up and they decide they're going to go on a double date to the fair. Well, the fair is having a superhero night, so you have to dress up as a superhero. So they dress up as each other. So Batman wears Superman's gear. Superman wears Batman's gear. Lois Lane dresses up as Catwoman, and Catwoman dresses up as Lois Lane, and they try all these different clothes on. And they basically go and have sort of like a fun time, hanging out in the fair. And then eventually Catwoman sort of wins over Lois Lane. She's excited that Batman's going to marry her, and Superman approves, and they end up stopping a little bit of a robbery, it looks like, purse snatcher, and eat ice cream, and that's about the end of that sequence.
Yeah.
Okay. So then, it's called Super Friends, by the way, is that sequence. So then we have the big annual at the end, which has, I don't remember what the plot of this was. Someone help me with the plot of what the annual was.
It details just various meetings they've had from the first time.
That's right.
That, like she stole the Batmobile to just kind of various meetings throughout the years.
Okay. And that's basically it. So it's them meeting off and on. I think there's also one of them meeting as like old people or something like that as well.
It's after they've been married for a while and she's about to die and she has to say goodbye. And, yeah.
Well, was it her or was it him? Because it ended with him in bed with all the Bat family.
He was dying. Yeah, he's dying.
Yeah.
So that's the general gist of all of that. Did I miss anything vitally important?
No, that's generally it. In the deluxe edition, which I have, because why not, the annual is actually sandwiched between those two arcs.
Oh, okay, that's interesting. I wonder if...
So it has Catwoman in the desert.
That's how it was released, I think.
Okay. Thank you, DC, for your inconsistencies.
Analysis.
Okay, well, who has some thoughts they want to jump in on?
I'll start in on this. So this was started off with Batman in the Desert. That's how I think of that arc with Joëlle Jones. I love Joëlle Jones' art. Ever since Brian initially turned me on to Lady Killer, and I'm like, this is amazing. And I've been steadily going back and buying everything Joëlle Jones has ever done. It's in process, but I'm still doing it. Mm-hmm. And it's great because it's, I think she pays a great tribute to the characters' art she's drawing them, but she also gives, what's interesting with it is she was the first artist to do multiple issues of ongoing Batman, female artist to do so. So I saw an interview when they asked her about it. She's like, well, I didn't know that. I'm glad I didn't know that. But I would have been more nervous. So, but she even has this little moment at the beginning back in Wayne Manor is you've got Damien, or is it Dick? They're reading like the Lady Killer Chronicles. Damien's reading the Lady Killer Chronicles, which is a nod to the Lady Killer book she had written earlier. So that was fun of DC to let her do that.
Nice catch.
Yeah. That was a nice there. But back to it is, so she's drawing this. She actually has a level of sexiness to Catwoman's outfit with her. Meow, indeed. And it's going through, and yet at the same time, it's not a... it's comic books. Everything's high-end. I mean, there's muscles on muscles and everything else. I mean, by all means. But it doesn't seem to be a... they're not... Talia and Catwoman are not blow-up dolls compared to other iterations.
Right, they're not titillating or exploited.
Right. Yeah. And so, but it's showing a little bit of skin here and there, but it's really seems to be, as it comes across, as Catwoman is showing as much skin as she so desires, type of the deal. And I'm just like,
yeah.
The artwork on this, I mean, it's top notch. I mean, you buy the appearance of it, how things go well together, staying true to things, and yet at the same time, there's a nice little twist of this going on, and it's just, I think it's just done extraordinarily well. And I'm like, I am thrilled Joëlle did this, and even before this series, I loved her work and continues to prove why. And she has since left the Batman book, and she is writing and drawing Catwoman as a standalone series.
I would actually just like to piggyback on that, because I also really liked the artwork in that storyline as well. And as much as the dramatic colors and lines of Catwoman and Batman in the Desert were fantastic, I also really appreciated the facial animation of all the boys in the manor when they find out the news that Batman's getting married. There's a lot of really nice subtle touches that convey a lot of emotion and confusion on their part.
No, for sure. Mr. Meyer, do you have any initial thoughts?
Between the two arcs, if you'll remember way back, probably probably about a year ago, I was, as far as the two-parter goes, I was way high on that story arc and told people to go out and get it.
You're talking about the Super Friends arc?
Yeah, Super Friends arc. That was one of my recommendations. Yeah. And now this kind of continues a trend of, like, a lot of people are either really high or not really high on Tom King's Batman. But I think it's been amazing since the beginning.
Yeah, I agree with that.
I won't spoil it for people that are actually going to read it, but we'll just say the wedding doesn't go quite the way you think it will. And a lot of people are upset by it, but he's like, that's issue 50 of a 100 issue arc that I have planned.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I just really have been enjoying it. Joëlle Jones is amazing. I would just look to see, because I wanted to get her Catwoman, but I was waiting for the trade, and there should be one pretty soon, I'm hoping. They're up to issue 8, so it's got some really pretty covers that I'm looking at. But it's like Catwoman was the perfect character for her to draw, or for her to take over.
And after her run on Lady Killer, like it does seem like a really logical choice for her to write Catwoman as well. You know?
See, I can't have an opinion on that because I haven't read Lady Killer.
Oh, it's great.
The Lady Killer is awesome. Both volumes are really good.
It is great. What's also interesting with Batman in the Desert, as I so put it, there is a lot of, with his outfit, it seems subtle nods to the Batman v Superman, like Nightmare Dreamscape costume.
The Nightmare Batman?
Yeah, the Nightmare Batman with the trench coat and the goggles and everything there. And I'm like, the timing of this is, I guess, interesting enough, but it seems to be a nod to that.
Also, wouldn't that be hot?
Yeah, but he's Batman.
He's got bat vents under his cape.
Bat vents. Bat vents.
Bat vents. Na 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 bat.
Oh, like he has to have swamp crotch really bad.
No, that's what Gold Bond is for.
I think after the back wound and being stabbed there, the swamp crotch is the least of his concerns.
Right. But talk about, I mean, as with the Bat family, it seems you always have these strong characters, and there's always a lot of focus seems on, like, the Robins and these others. But between Talia and Catwoman and the others, the women in the Bat family in general as well are every bit, if not stronger, in their own ways.
Well, and bringing up the Bat family, this reminded me of one of my favorite runs of books, because I love this relationship so much, but the relationship between Dick and Damian is one of my favorite relationships in comics, and anyone that doesn't like Damian really needs to read the Batman and Robin by Grant Morrison, and then it carries over into this. But their relationship, like Dick has always been the non-biological, like, actual son of Bruce, and this really was like a big brother. The way they're talking to each other, and this just reminded me of Big Brother hanging out with his kid brother, and
they're talking, not talking.
Yeah,
that whole thing. They're like, we're waiting here at the entrance. Don't you also notice and love how Batman makes all these rules for everyone, but he himself doesn't have to. He's exempt. It's like, oh, you told him yourself not to let anyone. He's like, I know, but I'm Batman, so I'm going to be doing this anyways. But back to it, you've got Damian and Dick, and they're just sitting on these steps, not going in because they shouldn't and they can't. And Damian's like, well, I'm waiting. And Dick's like, well, I'll wait with you. And they're just chilling, and they make, like, one-syllable words back and forth. And they're like, yeah, thanks for being here. Yeah. And it just comes across as so genuine and honest, and it's not this big recitative of this like huge like monologue coming out. It's just, I'm here for you, and just the presence there is enough. And it's appreciated. And yeah, it just comes across as very genuine to me, and it's a very nice moment on the repercussions of these actions.
And Damien's, typically a dick, which is why a lot of people don't like him.
Dude, I love the little
But Dick is the one person that he's, like, honest and open and, like, an actual person around instead of just an asshole.
Right, the facade.
Alfred is probably the only other person that he's like that around.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I agree. I really like Damien's character because he does seem like this very confident, cocky asshole who feels like he can even take on Superman. And the truth of it is that he's just this little kid who's scared and vulnerable, and he's got these two massive characters as parents, and he has a lot to live up to, but he's just scared. And when he sits down with Dick on those steps, it's just that's exactly what you see.
Right.
I can't remember what it's in, but there's some backstory, or it might have been a Teen Titans issue. Anyway, it was like Damien's birthday, and Alfred really like wanted to do something nice for him, and if you can find it, again, I can't remember exactly what it's in, but it's a good story.
No, I dig that. And even with the Super Friends, and you see the back and forth of the female significant others trying to get the two to talk to each other, and they just keep putting them off. And you're like, this is so real.
Stupid guys and fucking talk to each other.
Right. And then they proceed to say at the same time how they're like, this person's the greatest person I know. And it seems like it's the not quite inverse, but right there, what they truly admire in the other person is what they don't see in themselves.
Yeah.
And you're like, okay, I understand this relationship.
Yeah.
Like when they're switching costumes or switching clothes, and Lois is probably taller and a little bit more muscular than Catwoman. Catwoman's like, oh no, it's the fabric stretches. She's like, it's better.
It's better.
Oh yeah, there were a lot of really sweet moments between all the characters, especially when it goes back and forth between all four of them when they're having their ice cream. It's a little hard to follow at times, but when you can see either the stubble on Batman or Catwoman's hair, and you can recognize who the characters are, and you just see these really nice, genuine moments come out from these characters that have been larger than life in comic books for 70, 75 years. So,
see, one of the things that cracked me up every time I saw it is seeing Bruce in the Superman costume, but just with this sourpuss on his face, like Grimace.
Yeah.
Yep, and the stubble, and then Clark in the Batman outfit with the glasses. Yeah. I love that.
The glasses.
Just grinning ear to ear, going, woohoo!
Meanwhile, Catwoman and Lois are just getting drunk off of the flask.
Yes. So, but yeah, this is some of the most human moments of these characters I've seen in a really long time, and it's nice, and it really shows the friendship and the bonds that were being forged and strengthened, and you have Catwoman's acceptance into this thing. So yeah, this group, and no, it was really
with Superman starting like, oh, she's a villain, blah blah blah, and then by the end he's like, you're pretty cool.
You're pretty cool. I get you.
Yeah.
So no, and it was good.
Could gush about this book forever.
Agreed. Yeah. I even like the one where Catwoman has to say goodbye to a dying Bruce, and he leaves her at the end with this little cat inside the Batmobile and a note. I love you too, cat, from the first kiss to the last. It's just a lot of really nice, very human, genuine moments that you don't often get to see.
Yeah, and then
someday I will. Sorry, I was going to say someday I will finally get a book that will make up for Deadpool, but I have a feeling this one's not going to get me out of that doghouse yet either.
Not yet, but it's got a very the past thing. It's like it's got a very Tim Sale feel to the artwork going on, so it feels like I'm back reading Long Halloween again.
Yeah, that was
yes, yeah.
Either Michael Lark or Lee Weeks.
Yeah, doing it, and you can say like I'm channeling Tim Sale, and he did a great job because and everything else there, and I'm like, talk about firing on all cylinders right now.
Oh no, that was Lee Weeks. I'm just flipped to the annual part, and it's Lee Weeks did the whole. I think Michael Lark might have done the cover for the annual.
So, and then the car leaves Cat. What it also reminded me briefly of, though, is the John Wick.
John Wick?
Yeah, because the significant other died, and then they find they're left with a pat type of a thing of, like, keep going, this is for you, and whatnot. And it's another incredibly, like, sweet moment in a typically quite violent and brutal world.
Well, see, what you don't know is the story after this. The Joker murders the cat, and Catwoman just goes crazy and kills everyone.
Probably.
I would read that.
Probably. I'd read that too. So
I'd approve of that.
She cuts his face off all over again.
Yeah. She cuts her face off and feeds it to a
So
tiger.
she cuts it off, but then staples it back to him, but upside down.
There you go.
So he's frowning all the time?
Yes, now he's just frowning no matter what he does.
I smell a sequel. We could write this movie. It's great. You guys ready for some cocktails?
Let's do it.
Cocktails.
You sure are? Well, then what is your cocktail, Mr. Maya?
Mine is called the Catwoman. The ingredients are 1 ounce of citron vodka, 1 ounce of blue curacao, 1 ounce of lemon schnapps, half an ounce of triple sec, 2.5 ounces of Sprite or 7-Up, and then you're going to get a citrus fruit wheel for a garnish. Combine the 4 alcohols into an ice-filled cocktail shaker. Cover it, shake the shit out of it, and strain it into a chilled martini glass. Add the Sprite, gently stir it, and then slip the fruit wheel over the edge of the glass.
Nice.
Meow.
Meow.
That was going to be another one of my drinking games, was meow. Anytime Catwoman says meow.
Anytime.
Oof.
Which is a lot.
Here, I'll write that in. Mr. Jason, what is your cocktail?
Mine is called the Cucumber, in honor of Alfred's famous cucumber sandwiches. You take 1.5 ounces of gin, 4 to 6 slices of cucumber, a quarter of a medium-sized lemon, slice it up, 4 ounces of tonic water, 6 mint leaves, and if you would like, 1 tablespoon of sugar. Add the mint, lime, gin, and sugar to a shaker and muddle. And then you add the cucumber slices to the shaker, shake vigorously, and then pour it over to a glass filled with ice and top with the tonic water. Stir for, let it set for a few minutes, and then drink to enjoy.
That sounds delicious.
Nice. Awesome. Mine is called Bat's Brew. This actually will yield 6 servings, so don't take these, unless you really want to drink 6 of these. It's 2 cups of Bacardi Superior, 4 cups of ginger ale, a half cup of blue curacao, 1 cup of cranberry juice, and a splash of grenadine. You can bite all the ingredients into a large punch bowl or drink dispenser and fill with ice. Or chill before serving. Stir well, garnish with frozen blueberries or blackberries, and serve. Mr. Todd, what is your cocktail?
Well, I'm going with the Bruce Wayne cocktail. So this one takes a little bit of work, but it's delicious and it's nice and black and dark because that's Bruce Wayne. It's you need to go ahead and make brew some coffee, and then you're going to need to let it chill. So you're going to want to take a shaker, put 4.5 ounces of some cold brewed coffee, 2 ounces of your favorite bourbon. I take something rich and smack you in the face. And then take a half ounce of maple syrup. You put that in a cocktail shaker and you just shake the shit out of it until it's ultra foamy. And then you strain into a rocks glass over ice.
Okay.
So you have this coffee, whiskey, maple syrup cup to enjoy and imbibe.
We did another one similar to that one of the other times we've done a Batman book. I just don't remember what it was, but it was somewhat similar. I remember the coffee and the booze combination because it was something to keep you up all night so you could fight crime. Well, cool. Getting back onto track. So, anybody have any parting thoughts before we go into final grades?
Parting thoughts.
You know, it says trade 5, so deep within the run. It's a wonderfully easy jumping on point. And even if you want to just dabble your feet, jump in and jump out again, it works really well. So it's one of those things, there's a lot of story surrounding it before and after. And yet it's encapsulated well enough. It's done really well. So I'm really impressed with that. So it's one of those things people are like, oh, I want to read Batman, but holy shit, there is so much. Where do I even begin? And it's one of the most popular characters. That's probably one of the most I want to get into this, but it's too much. How do I get into too much? This would probably be entering in some of my jumping on points of, well, read this. Yep. And tell me if you like this one. There's other points, but this one's definitely going to enter and it's let's have you read this little story here, and if you keep liking it, we can go from there, type of a deal. So it's great. And it's also what it's going through. It's talk about an all ages And even as you watch it, I don't even feel this is too focused on like one gender or the other type of deal. Oftentimes, many of these stories are very much so. It's like, this is where I'm going after the tween girl audience, or I'm going after this. There's enough perspective on all sides, and the moments and all the characters are given are dimensionally dense enough that there is something for everyone to grab onto.
Seems like a good place to step off on.
Final grades.
So let's jump into grades. For final grades,
self-contained.
For our first one, for self-contained, what is your grade, Mr. Maya?
A. I mean, the only thing you really need to know is they're engaged, but I mean, it probably says it on the back of the book anyway. So.
Well, there's also rules of engagement, so
Yeah.
It's a little bit in the title. It is a clue.
It's a clue.
Well, Jason, what is yours?
Mine is also an A, despite the fact that it is number 5 in a run. It's pretty well self-contained, and it is, like Todd said, a very good introduction.
I'm also going to sit there with an A for a lot of the same reasons. I mean, like when I first read this, I thought this will be a great book for us to do for this month. I was pleasantly surprised at how self-contained it was, because I really mainly picked it because of some of the stuff. Basically, the two-parter of Super Friends is the real reason I picked this book, but overall it holds up on its own really well. And Mr. Todd?
Yeah, it's going to be a shocker here, but it's an A.
Writing grade.
For writing, for Mr. Tom King, what is your grade, Mr. Todd?
I'll give it an A-. I mean, this is some of the most human moments, and I really enjoyed as it's coming through, because you have both Batman and then you have Bruce Wayne as itself, along with Catwoman and Selina, and then the interactions with that. And you're having fun with the Bat family and the other characters. So he did a really bang-up job, and I really enjoyed it. So, yeah, I'm going to give him an A-.
Cool. Mr. Maya?
I'm going to give it an A. To me, this was a perfect Batman book. For a lot of the reasons Todd said, that this is... I like seeing the human moments in my comic characters. Mm-hmm. And then this was filled with that between all 3 stories in it. So, yeah, I'm going to give it an A.
Mr. Jason?
I'm going to also agree with an A. It's got a little bit of everything. There's got action, there's very human moments, there's the cat and mouse game that Catwoman and Batman always play, there's the extended Bat family, there's some nice Alfred moments. It's an all-around great Batman book.
Cool. And I think I'm also going to sit there with an A with everybody else on that one as well.
Art grade.
For art, for Joëlle Jones, Clay Mann, and Lee Weeks, what is your grade, Mr. Jason?
It's an A for me, and I think there are also Michael Lark and Seth Mann in there. But the distinct styles that each of the different arcs in the trade brought to those individual stories, I think, really elevated them. Not that the writing really needed that much of a push, but the fact that there is that distinct aesthetic to each of them, I think, really helps.
Cool. Mr. Maya?
I'm also at an A. One of the things that really stood out in this to me was the facial expressions, and that was something that all 3 artists managed to nail pretty solidly. And we talk about how this is a very human look at some of these characters, and the art managed to complement that. So I'm also going to give it an A. I'm
also going to sit there with an A. I really enjoyed this, specifically Joëlle Jones's art. I always think is just incredible. So I was very excited about that. Cool. So that's everybody, right? I didn't skip anybody on that one.
You skipped me.
Yeah, you didn't get Todd's art.
I'm sorry, Todd. What's your art grade? I apologize. I'm sorry!
Don't you have an agenda in front of you?
I do, but I lost track of names.
Oh, that happens, I guess. No, I'm still not forgiven. It's an A. What's interesting is Batman, one can very well argue, is the premier comic book that everyone wants to draw for at least one time. And so they attract the best of the talent out there, and it really shines through here. Jason has commented on how the styles are very distinct, and yet there's no feeling of anything being disjointed. And it's just crafted together so well, the amalgam of the different stories, and they both have their own style and their own frames of reference, and it's just so good, and it's showing you how good comics can be. And I'm not sure, I mean, even if you take this same thing and say, I want to move mediums and I want to make this a animated feature or a live action, with just the different styles and the artist takes, shapes the story and the consumption of it in such a degree. It really shines through on what this very medium is best at. and why do this versus others is this is a great example with the different creative teams coming together to create something awesome. So yeah, it's an A.
Final grades.
So then, for final grades, so I don't forget you again, Mr. Todd, what is your final grade?
Oh, it's an A. This is some of the best Batman stuff being written today. So do it. A.
Cool. Mr. Jason?
Agreed. A.
I'm also going to sit there at an A as well. Mr. Maya, what is your grade?
I'm going to say A, and I'm going to take Todd's comment one step further. It's not some of the best Batman stuff being written today. To me, it's some of the best Batman stuff ever written.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. I think this book in particular might be pulled out and singled out, well after the run is done, as sort of one of those classic little runs of Batman.
Grade point average.
And I didn't even have to do any math for our final overall GPA, which is a 4.0. So we all loved this book, which is kind of great.
Next week on Funny Books on Firewater.
Next week we are doing Quantum Teens Are a Go, or is it? No, there's no A. There's
no A.
Are a Go.
Yeah.
Sorry, don't ignore me about that. It's sort of punk rock and teenage sweetheart. It's basically about two teenage sweethearts, Nate and
Natalie.
Surmesh? Well, Natalie, but no, sorry, Nat. You're right. I was reading off the back. Nat and Sumesh. Mm-hmm. They basically spend their time breaking into old labs, and they're building parts to basically try to build their own time travel device. Is sort of what this book is all about. And features a transgender character. Natalie is transgender in this book, and it's kind of dealt with relatively well, I would say. So there's that. Anybody else have any thoughts on that before we move on to recommendations?
No.
Recommendations.
Well, then, does anybody have any recommendations they want to jump in with?
I do.
Okay.
So as we record this, it is like the second week of January. This week, DC started a new Young Justice series. And not the cartoon, they started a new comic series written by Brian Michael Bendis, drawn by Patrick Gleason, who has previously worked with Pete Tomasi on Batman and Robin and on Superman. This is a really fun first issue. It's kind of the team coming together. It's got your Tim Drake Robin, it's got your Cassie Sandsmark Wonder Girl, Connor Superboy shows up at the end. It's got Bart Allen. She's not really in it much, but Amethyst of Gem World is going to be a part of the team, and then two new characters that Bendis has created. One has actually been showed up in the Batman story in those 100-page giants that you can only get at Walmart. But it's Jenny Hex, who is the great descendant of Jonah Hex, and a new character that shows up for 2 pages. We know nothing about, but their name is Teen Lantern, and it's a teenage Green Lantern. And the first issue is a lot of fun. It's really pretty to look at. I can't wait to see where it goes from here.
That's awesome. Mr. Jason, do you have any recommendations?
I mean, I'm sure it's already been recommended, but Batman the Animated Series on Blu-ray, it's fantastic. So, even if you didn't watch it when you were young, buy it now. If you like Batman or things animated, it's wonderful.
Now, I will also say, you do want to see it in HD, but can't shell out the money for the Blu-rays. On the DC Universe app, it's in HD on there if you still want to see it in high def, and it is. I can agree, it is beautiful.
Oh, nice.
It is super cleaned up, yeah.
Good to know.
Cool. And Mr. Todd?
So mine's a bit of a departure, but I've been doing home improvement projects ever since recently, I guess. And they're too much money, and they're a lot of fun, is the Philips Hue lighting system.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah, those are cool.
I use those a lot.
So, I have most of my basement's now outfitted with that shit. I'm giving all my money to Philips lately. Mm-hmm. So good for them for making a great product. Highly recommend them.
Hey, Philips, if you're out there and you want to sponsor us, Todd could use your help.
Right. Yeah.
Are you using the strip lights?
I've got the LED strip lights in the room, but in my office, I'm ripping out the lights that were in there, and they've got a big low-profile ceiling light that'll just wire in. That's the same thing as well.
Oh, cool.
So yeah.
Yeah, I have them all over my place, which I get to yell at my Amazon it's an Echo or an Alexa. I get to yell at that to be able to turn stuff off and on. Mm-hmm. But My sister-in-law's name is Alexa, so I changed it so it doesn't respond to that, so I can actually say Alexa out loud without it causing problems.
Sure.
But if you're listening to this on a speaker, Alexa, turn off lights. I just did that just to fuck with somebody.
Good for you.
Somebody that's going to bite them. I know, just for my... I'm just feeling evil. Okay.
Brian, you want to be evil? It's like, Alexa, order all the movies.
Yeah, that's also very evil.
Alexa, order lube.
Gallons of lube.
That seems like a good end.
Well, so then that will do it for this week, and we will see you next week for Teen Titans Are Go and
Quantum Teens Are Go.
Oh my gosh. Okay, I barely slept the last week.
Are Go.
Yeah, I'm running off of like energy drinks right now. Is basically the only thing that's keeping me like upright at this point in time. So I apologize.
Should drink that Batman drink.
No.
Yes.
Well, maybe. I don't know. We'll think about that.
Brian's never become a big coffee person, so that would really get him going.
No, I need to though. Like that's the thing is I've started going to Starbucks a little bit because there's some keto drinks that I can get that work. But like I'm okay, Todd, if I were to go and actually try coffee, but I'm not a big coffee fan.
So you don't like
what's
coffee
something that I could get without I don't necessarily mind coffee flavor. I mean, I guess I don't know.
So my low-cal caffeine hit that when I go to Starbucks has to be their cold brew with just a slight splash of cream. And I take it exactly that. So right, but I don't add any sugar or any of that shit, but just enough to lighten up the color a little bit. And for me, that's awesome, but it's bitter as hell.
Okay.
If you like that sort of thing, it's your jam. If you just want a good caffeine buzz, but the coffee you're not sure a bit with, those refreshers, like the hibiscus and those others, are green.
Yeah, the problem is refreshers have too much sugar in them for my diet.
All right, but you take a look at a cup of coffee, it's like 4 calories if you don't add any sugar to it.
Yeah, it's not necessarily the calorie count; it's the sugar and the carbs is the problem because I'm on keto. So, like the one I've been getting a lot is I will get a iced green tea latte with heavy cream and sugar-free vanilla syrup, which basically sort of like a vanilla milkshake, but like it gives me that milkshake sort of craving, like gets rid of that. You know what I mean? Because I can't necessarily have it.
So you're good with heavy cream?
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, then get the cold brewed coffee with a healthy splash of cream and let me know.
Okay, maybe I'll try that.
I'll give you.
Because when it's cold, it takes some of the bitterness out.
Okay.
So do that.
And then Maya, are you offering to give me some heavy cream?
Just a healthy splash of cream.
Just a healthy splash?
Mm-hmm.
To go with the lube you just
That's
ordered.
right.
Okay.
On Amazon, you can get a 55-gallon drum of lube as an option.
Oh, I know. That's why I said that.
So if you guys do, another recommendation, if you do want to go down the rabbit hole of humorous reviews writing, go look that up. It is awesome. Everything from a guy going, been out of the dating scene for 20 years, getting ready to dive back in, so I order this. The girl comes over and says, don't worry, I'm ready. I've got it here in the corner. To people having slip and slides and all that whole thing. It's good times.
Also, reviews of sugar-free gummy bears.
Nice. Oh, that one's just evil.
Oh, yeah, that's terrible.
Yeah, it becomes very scatological.
Yeah, Haribo, I think is the brand name.
Haribo, or whatever it is, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
We've run off the rails enough on this one. We'll put a fork in it. We will see you next week. Thanks for joining us. I'm backwards. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you next week.
Get some sleep.
This is where y'all say bye.
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 So that happened. Thank you for joining us for this week's episode. This band of knuckleheads will be back next week with a new episode. Until then, you can find them on Facebook, Instagram, and Tumblr as Funny Books and Firewater, and on Twitter as @FirewaterCast. Go to funnybooksandfirewater.com for the most up-to-date information, as well as cocktail recipes from this and past episodes. Thank you for joining us. And until next week, support your local comic shop, tip your bartender well, and stay hydrated.